And welcome back. It's Getting Loose with Leon for Thursday, October 2nd, year of our Lord 2025. It is 7 o'clock in the east of the United States, and we are locked and loaded. We got NASCAR rolling into Charlotte, doing a little road course racing on the ROVAL, the cutoff race there, the elimination race before we go down to 8 and starting the next round. But we got some road course racing to do before we get that done. And then F1 over in a very hot and humid Singapore for the Singapore Grand Prix. So we are packed, locked and loaded with a lot of good stuff to get to this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining in. Make sure to click that subscribe button down there in the bottom right-hand corner so you don't miss anything at all. Also, make sure to follow the other shows on our network as well. The Getting Loose with Leon podcast on right now. Last night, my buddy Scotty and I, Chris was absent, so we did the Let's Not Do This podcast, breaking down 49ers and Rams coming up here at 8:15 on Amazon Prime. We gave our thoughts on that game. Also, Thursday night football for the college variety, and also some Friday night college football games too. And then make sure to join us Saturday morning at 9 a.m. also on our network for the Doing Lines podcast as we break down the biggest college football and NFL plays from a gambling standpoint of the weekend to get you ready to make some cash. But let's get ready to make some cash on the track this week. As we said, we'll start off with NASCAR heading into Charlotte for the ROVAL. For that, it's going to be the Big O's picks brought to you by maybe you. You can send an email to info and let's not do this podcast.com if you want to sponsor and help me, help you, help me, help you. All right, let's make some cash. NASCAR rolling into Charlotte. And we got the ROVAL coming up Sunday, 3 o'clock on the USA Network. I just want to point out, great weekend of sports. We got some good college football. We got NFL. We got baseball, going on right now in the playoffs. Fantastic stuff. Doesn't get any better right now. We got preseason hockey. If you care about the NBA, that's starting. A lot of good stuff to watch this weekend. So let's get into it. Surprise, surprise. It's a road course. Who's the favorite? That's going to be the Kiwi, SVG. He's my favorite this week, plus 100 you can get him for right now on FanDuel. I think the next closest odds right now are like Kyle Larson. I think you can get him at like plus 1,000. I want to say on BetMGM, but SVG plus 100. Give that to me on FanDuel. Look, there ain't a lot to say here. SVG, he's won the last 4 road course races. He's going for his 5th straight road course win that would tie Jeff Gordon's record. Yeah, he's eliminated from the playoffs, but so what? Who cares? Motivation isn't a factor for this guy. He is a world-class driver on those road courses. And you know what? Look out, boys and girls, because he may be figuring out those ovals. You see, last week at Kansas, great finish for him there. So if he can figure out the ovals, he is definitely going to be a problem. A guy that's going to be in the playoffs year in and year out, as long as NASCAR has road courses. This is where he shines. This is his thing. This is why they brought him over. Trackhouse did. This is exactly this. So it's his race to lose. He's by far the favorite. Listen, plus 100, not a lot of big odds on that, but it's about as safe as you can say for a race winner to go ahead and go with SVG at plus 100 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's the best odds I saw for that. I know there was like some minus 105s and stuff out there. So if you give me SVG with plus money on the road course, I'm going to take it every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. So no brainer on that one. All right, who else could potentially come away with a win here? Tyler Reddick got that nice aqua, kind of Carolina blue looking, I'm not sure, paint scheme, the Jordan brand paint scheme they're going with this week. Look, Tyler Reddick is a guy, he on the ROVAL has like a 7.8 average finish there. He's never finished worse than 12th on the ROVAL, okay? He's got 166 road course points. That's second among playoff drivers, and he's the only playoff driver without a 2025 win. He just might be due for one here. This is a guy is running really well right now. Unfortunately, we saw the story in this past week with his child. Hopefully, everything is going on there. Had some health concern issues. Hoping prayers and thoughts out with the family. Hopefully, everything comes through there. This is a guy that is really good on road courses. He's running well. He's due for a win, and I'm sure he's got a lot of things on his plate that are important outside of the racetrack right now. Maybe a little extra motivation to get a win for his kiddo, and hopefully that's a full recovery there. But yeah, give me Tyler Reddick. If you're looking for a little value play right there, you can get him at plus 1,400 on Bet Rivers right now. Another guy that could be in the mix, Chase Elliott. You can get him at plus 1,500 right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, let's face it. He won at Kansas last week, came from 8th on the final restart there. I mean, literally drove it like he stole it. Denny and Bubba getting into it a little bit there on that last lap opens the door for that number 9 Chevrolet to slip on through and steal a win there in the Sunflower State. And by the way, this is a guy who, with SVG coming over, we don't really talk about as much on the ROVALs, on the road courses, but he's a 2-time ROVAL winner. He's won there in 2019 and 2020. His average finish is best all time on this course at 7.7, just ahead of Tyler Reddick. This is a guy, pre SVG was always one of the favorites on road courses. Hendrick, those cars are going to perform well. He's going to be there, and he's just consistent week in and week out. If something happens, SVG cuts a tire late, he trades some paint with someone, gets caught up in someone else's mess. This is another guy that could sneak through and steal a win here. So give me Chase Elliott at plus 1,500 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, a couple top 5 plays. Yeah, I'm going to go right back to Tyler Reddick. You can get him at plus 180 on DraftKings right now for a top 5. I mean, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think this is a guy that has a real chance to win this week should SVG get caught up in something. But Tyler Reddick is going to run up front all day long, I believe, in this race. We talked about the average finish there, 7.8, and this is a guy who has to perform this week. You look at the Chase standings, he is got a 29-point deficit right now to that cutoff. So this is a guy that has to bring his A game if he wants to advance on with any chance of winning a championship. And hey, this is value right here. You can get him at minus 110. Take that any day of the week. Well, I'm sorry. I saw that earlier in the day. It was at minus 110 somewhere. Now it's at plus 180. I still think that this is value. Give me Tyler Reddick plus 180 on DraftKings right now for a top 5 finish there. Another guy for a top 5 finish, Chase Elliott. Same thing. Consistently consistent. Week in and week out. You can get him at plus 190 on DraftKings. We talked about everything with the 2 ROVAL wins. He won at Kansas. He's in really good form. Yeah, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on him to win the race. But yeah, you're damn sure I'm going to give him some play for a top 5. So Chase Elliott, top 5 at plus 190 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Top 10, I'm looking at Chase Briscoe. You can get him right now minus 110 on Caesars Sportsbook. Look, Chase Briscoe, the odds I've seen on this anywhere from like 110 to 125 or so. So 110, good value here. He's the only driver with top 10s in all 5 playoff races. Doesn't do anything super sexy. He was contending for some wins early on, but just a guy that's consistently there week in and week out. JGR cars are always, going to be set up well. They're always going to run up front. We've seen that 19 team overcome a lot of things this year, and they're just there week in and week out. So, yeah, give me Chase Briscoe minus 110 for a top 10 finish there on the ROVAL. Also, looking at a top 10, Chris Buescher. Minus 125. You can get him at minus 125 on DraftKings. Those odds about in the same range. I've seen him 125 to 130. Consistent. He has 16 top 10s on road courses in the next gen era. That's tied for the most all time. All right. So a guy who is a good road course racer. He does it well in this next gen car. He's going to be there. Maybe if something funky happens, he has a chance to come away with a win if there's a big wreck or something, but he's not going to do anything to take himself out of a good finish here. So, yeah, give me Chris Buescher at minus 125 right there on the DraftKings Sportsbook for a top 10 finish. And then, we talked about funky stuff, who could potentially steal a win. I'm going to go with the dinger. AJ Allmendinger. We used to always talk about road course, ringers and everything before SVG came over. He's great on the Roval. He's won here before back in 2023. You look at it, this is a guy who has got this background. He's got a top 6 finish in the last 3 Roval races. Say that 5 times fast. Roval races. He's got a top 6 finish in the last 3 there. I believe it's the longest active top 10 streak here at this track. He finishes usually about 11th or so on this track. That's second best among active tracks for AJ Allmendinger. And let's face it, he's not exactly driving the best equipment in the world. So getting that car up there and finishing well at this track is always a good thing. He's not in the playoffs, so there's no pressure. He can be aggressive, take some chances there and do what he does best on these kind of tracks. And, SVG is elite. He is a great driver, but he's not invincible. We've seen him get beat before on the road course. This is a guy that could potentially do it. So I think some sharp money could come in for AJ Allmendinger here. And let's face it, road course race in the playoffs. It's the last race before the cutoff. There could be some desperate moves. There could be some bubble drama late. Some guys going checkers or wreckers. Some guys getting dumped, maybe by a teammate of another guy. You never know what happens. AJ Allmendinger thrives on chaos. And he's a veteran racer. He's not going to panic. He's going to be there if the opportunity arises where he could steal a win. If SVG has any sort of issue, contact with someone, a penalty, a bad pit stop, something mechanical, AJ Allmendinger is a guy that could step in and steal one here. And so I really like the odds on him at plus 1,600. That's my long shot this week on the DraftKings Sportsbook. AJ Allmendinger at plus 1,600 on DraftKings. So before we transition over to F1, just to recap NASCAR real quick, long shot, AJ Allmendinger plus 1,600 on DraftKings. Give me Chris Buescher on DraftKings at minus 125 for a top 10. Chase Briscoe on Caesars, minus 110 for a top 10. Chase Elliott, a top 5 on DraftKings at plus 190. Tyler Reddick for a top 5 on DraftKings at plus 180. Chase Elliott in the mix for a win, plus 1,500 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Tyler Reddick at plus 1,400 for a win on Bet Rivers. And, of course, the odds-on favorite everywhere, Shane Van Gisbergen, plus 100 on FanDuel to get a win on the Roval at Charlotte. Home race for NASCAR. Not a lot of these guys having to make trips, across country and can sleep in their own bed. I know everyone's really happy about that one there. All right, let's go to Asia. F1, the Singapore Grand Prix, 8 a.m. Sunday morning. So think about this. You can get up Sunday morning. You can watch the Singapore Grand Prix. NFL football comes on live from, I think they're in London this week, I want to say. I forget. There's where these, I know the Vikings, I believe, are playing again, the first team to play back-to-back European games. But yeah, you can watch some early football. You can watch some early F1, do a little split screen there if you got the YouTube TV, or maybe a second screen experience. It's going to be a nice little Sunday morning. Looking at the race itself, I'm going to go with Max Verstappen this week. You can get him at plus 250 on Bet365. So plus 250 on Bet365 right now for Max Verstappen. And I know everyone's looking at the McLaren guys right now. I'm going with Max this week because I feel, hey, this is the only current F1 track where he's never won. He's 0-8 here. He's got to be due at some point. And Red Bull, after the upgrades that they've made, this car is looking really good. I think he has the opportunity to get that first career win there. This has not been his track. He's only led 3 laps all time in his career at Singapore. In fact, Antonio Giovinazzi has led more laps at Singapore in his career than Max has. 4 laps by Antonio, 3 by Max all time. And this is only one of 6 tracks total in his career without a win. The other ones are tracks that, pandemic era tracks that no longer exist. And then, of course, you got Sochi in Russia. And given the current geopolitical situation, I don't think they'll be going back there anytime soon. Red Bull, though, they've just been snake bit here. They have not won at Singapore since 2013. Now, I know you had that exception with Sergio Perez in 2023. I mean, no, 2022 in the wet conditions. We're going to put a little asterisk. We're going to toss that one out there. But, going back to Sebastian Vettel when he won his fourth straight there in 2013, that's the last time they had like a real true win there. This is a place, low speed track, high downforce street circuit. Doesn't really suit the Red Bull cars well with that, in this ground effect era, and it's kind of bumpy and tight corners as well. But Max has won the last two races. He won at Monza, he won at Baku, he won both from the pole there. As we talked about, the upgrades have looked well. He scored 68 of 75 possible points in the last three races. And even Yuki Tsunoda is rolling better right now for Red Bull with those upgrades. And, if Red Bull can be competitive in Singapore, it proves the car has truly kind of turned a corner. And let's face it, if Max can somehow, some way steal a win here, this championship race isn't exactly over. He could put himself pretty good into the mix there. So I like Max at plus 250 to get the win, his first ever at Singapore, and you can get that on Bet365. As for the McLaren boys, I'm going with Lando Norris at plus 190. You can get that on Caesar Sportsbook to start on the pole. I'm shying away from Oscar this week. I know Oscar, he's got the 25-point lead on Lando. He crashed on lap 1 in Baku, a rare mistake. He needs a bounce back performance, he does. But what does that tell me? Maybe the pressure's getting to him a little bit. Maybe he's pressing a little bit, feeling that heat. Lando won from Singapore last year from the pole by 20 seconds over Max. Well, this Red Bull car that Max has right now, a lot different than that previous Red Bull car. That's why I'm going with Max this week. But Lando is 25 points back behind Oscar in the fight. He failed to capitalize at Baku after Oscar had that crash. He finished 7th. Valuable opportunity there to pick up a lot of points that he left on the table. But he is the favorite qualifying wise here. I think he will get the pole. I just don't quite trust him to get the win with the way that Red Bull car has been the last couple of races. And also, I just think Max is due at some point. Maybe I'm playing a hunch, but that's what I'm going with. So I'm going with Lando on the pole, but Max to win. Also, fastest lap here, Max Verstappen plus 470 on FanDuel. I just like the way that Red Bull car is looking right now. Not a lot of analysis on this one. We've talked about Max earlier, so give you Max plus 470 on FanDuel there with the fastest lap. And then if there's some chaos, who could potentially come away with a win? A long shot here. Charles Leclerc, give me him at plus 1,000 there on FanDuel Sportsbook. You're seeing that number range a couple different, dipping down a couple places. I like it at plus 1,000 right now on FanDuel. This track suits Ferrari well. And if there's an opportunity for him to come up and steal one, I think this is a guy. If there's I'm not sure what the precipitation is. I don't think there's anything too much I know it's been raining there all week leading up to it, but I haven't looked for Sunday. But there's some tight corners here. I just think that this this Ferrari car can be fast without sacrificing a lot of straight line speed. These low speed corners kind of favor Ferrari a little bit there. And they're good on these high downforce setups here as well. And he's got 2 pole positions here all time, going back to 19 and 22. And the last non-McLaren win at Singapore was Carlos Sainz when he was driving for Ferrari back in 2023. So I think this is a good value pick at a place where Ferrari has historically been strong. I would shy away from Lewis this week. I think Charles is a lot further ahead of Lewis right now. Also, Lewis, unfortunately, the loss of his pet this past week, you got to be feeling for him. But I just think Charles is further ahead. I think he's in a better position to take advantage and come away with a surprise win here if the opportunity arises. So give me Charles Leclerc plus 1,000 for my long shot this week in F1. So recap that. Max fastest lap 470 on FanDuel. Lando pole winner plus 190 on Caesars. Max Verstappen plus 250 on Bet 365 to come away with a win there. And real quick, cycling back to NASCAR, a couple things I didn't have a chance to make a graphic for, but I did just want to touch on real quick. A couple of head-to-head matchups that I was seeing that I wanted to get in on. Tyler Reddick over Austin Cindric. Been seeing that at a lot of different places. I believe you can get that at minus 200. I forget what book had that. Look, Cindric is like 48 back in the points right now. He's in a must-win scenario, pretty much, if he wants to advance on in the playoffs. These playoffs have just not been great for him. He's got 0 stage points on road courses this year. Just have not been a factor, really. I think, Tyler Reddick is a good road course racer. I think this is going to be an easy win for Tyler. If you want to bet that head, straight up, head-to-head, Tyler Reddick minus 200 over Austin Cindric. Another one, Chase Elliott over William Byron. That is even at a lot of places. A 114 shop that one a little bit. Obviously, we talked about Chase winning last week. He's on a hot streak. William Byron finished 9th at Kansas, but as he said in the post race, he was kind of throwing Hail Marys, per his own words. And I think that car is a little bit of a mystery, kind of up, down right now, week to week. I think Chase is more consistent right now. Give me Chase Elliott over William Byron. Also, Michael McDowell over Ross Chastain at minus 122. McDowell has 12 top 10s and 22 next-gen road course starts. Ross, this is not a good track for him. His average finish is 24th. That's worst among active drivers here at the Roval. And Chastain's desperate. He's way back in the running there for the playoffs. That's not going to help. Bad track history and desperation. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets his nose caught in something and doesn't end up finishing this race here. So that's a couple of head-to-heads that I'm looking at, and I'll put those graphics out a little bit later on that. So, hey, thanks so much for tuning in and listen to me ramble. Hopefully you can tail these picks. We can all make some money this week. Like I said, if you missed out on the Let's Not Do This podcast last night, make sure to check that out. We preview Rams 49ers. That's coming up here in just over 40 minutes or just under 40 minutes. We got some college football for tonight and tomorrow as well on there. And then join us right back here Saturday morning, 9 a.m. for the Doing Lines podcast. My cohorts, Scotty and Chris, will break it down for NFL and college football, give our best picks and our underdog parlay as well. And I'm shopping a pretty good upset this week that I'm going to toss on there. So, hey, thanks so much. And until next time, keep your mirrors clean.